Okay, on, what was that, Thursday? We looked at chapters 8 and 9, correct? Did a little sign work. On 8, we talked about getting your license revoked, which is indefinite withdrawal of driving privileges, long period, bad stuff, right? Then we talked about suspensions, which are shorter, temporary losses, still bad stuff, just not as bad. Reasons to get canceled, medical exemptions, some of that stuff. Denied, special permits, how you lose your license when you get a ticket, you get it back once you go to court, what your driving record consists of. Then we went through traffic signs, which the traffic signs, we talked about the shapes of the signs, correct? We said the shape matters, color matters, right? What did we say about red signs? They've always been, red always means danger, right? So in the driving setting, the reds are probably deemed your more important, more well-known signs, okay? So that's important to understand those. Yellow and yellow-green are the warning signs that in front of schools. And yellow-green is basically saying neon green, very bright. Orange, construction, green, guide, blue, guide. Brown, parks. Then we broke them down individually. Regulatory signs. I told you guys if you can read wrong way or do not enter, that is a bad deal, right? Because that means you are going the wrong way. Difference between pedestrian and regular crossings. The shape. The school crossing is a school shape. The pedestrian is diamond shape. Some more warning signs we talked about, went through those. Construction, talked about flaggers, slow down, pay attention. And today we're starting on chapter 10, page 77, looking at traffic signals. Okay, when I tell you guys, what does a red traffic light mean, you would say, stop. That would be correct, right? If I said, what does yellow mean? Somebody would be funny, or think they're funny, and say, yellow means hurry up and go, right? Or go faster. It actually means slow down, stop if you can. But I always have to tell kids, it doesn't mean just like lock them up and stop. Because if I'm driving along and I have a green, and it switches to yellow right in front of me, I don't slam the brakes on because what's going to happen? The car behind me is not expecting me to do that, are they? And they are going to slam into my backside. So it's slow down, stop if you can. If you want to keep going there because it's safer to do so, do so. But don't speed up, because when you speed up, now you're probably going to end up running a red light. Correct? Which is no good, not good. So understand that. It's also important to understand what a stale green is. And what a stale green is I'm driving along, I'm entering town from Keysport direction, so I'm coming towards Walmart, and can I see that light pretty far off? So I'm pretty far away, I'm driving along, I see that it's green when I'm by Isaac Auto Body, let's say. That's going to be a stale green by the time I get there. What should we expect by the time we get there? Should we expect it to change? Yeah. So that's what you have to do. When the light's been green for a long time, we have to start expecting for it to change. Does that make sense? What does green mean? Most of the time you guys yell out, go, right? But what did I say? We talked about this already, I think, didn't we? Does it mean go? You're thinking hard. We didn't talk about this? I could have swore we talked about this in this class. Because I went through and I said green means what? You're like, go. I'm like, well, does it? It means go if?
After you yield to the right of way.
Go clear, right? Because if there's cars already in the intersection and I take off and go with my green and I hit them, it's not their fault, is it? It's my fault because I didn't yield right away, like he just said. Good job, right? So it's important to understand that even though you have green and you feel like you should go, you still have to yield the right of way if somebody's already in there, okay? So it's not go. It's go if clear. Important to understand. Flashing red, stop, right? Flashing yellow. What sign would that be equivalent to? What's the first sign they talked about was a stop sign. What was the second sign they showed you? The yield sign. So what does the flashing yellow mean? Yield. Which means what? Slow down. Make sure it's clear, then you can go. But you might have to stop, right? So understand that. Flashing greens don't exist. 78. Now we're talking arrows. And arrows are important to understand because there's a difference. When we're heading out of town and we hit the four-way by CVS, everybody with me? That's like the major intersection of Carlisle, our big old town that we have, like 2 intersections, but that's the big one, right? So I tell students, let's get into the left lane. So they blinker, they change, they get into the left lane, they're driving along, they look ahead, and they see the traffic light. And it's either going to be a green traffic light or a green arrow. What's the difference? A lot of students will be driving along with a green light, and they just start to go. And then what do I have to do? I have to stop them. Why do we have to stop? Because if I'm going into the turn lane, and I have a green light, what do I have to do? Landon, what would you say? You just got. You got to yield. Again, I just set you up for you to knock it out, and you almost did. You got to yield because a green light means only go if clear. What if I have a green arrow? Now, do I have right of way? You see the difference here? And at times at that light, they'll change. It'll be a green arrow, which means I can go. So I see my green arrow. I'm expecting to go. Now it switches to a green light. What do I have to do differently now? I don't get a go. I have to yield. You see the difference? A lot of students lose points on the driving test at that intersection because of that. Because they'll start to go, and I have to hit the brakes. And technically, if I have to hit the brakes to stop an accident, did you just fail? Yes. So understand that green light and green arrow are different. If you're confused, what should you do? When you go that way, the next time should you pay attention so you can see it, and then ask what? Ask whoever you're with a question of what just happened. Then it will make sense. So just pay attention when you go through it. Yellow means slow down, stop if you can. Green means go as clear. Pedestrian walk signs. Probably seen them before, but never really thought about it. So if I'm approaching a crosswalk and the hand is blinking, that's equivalent to a yellow. What does it mean? If you can make it go, but otherwise stay. Because usually it'll give you, depending on the size of the intersection, 10 seconds, which is going to be 10 blinks. So if you counted it during blink 5, you got 5 seconds to get across it. Whereas if they're on 8, you only got 2. If it just starts, you probably got plenty of time. But blinking means yield, right? Slow down, probably shouldn't go across. Because eventually it's going to go solid, which means don't go. Then you're going to have it switch to walk. When it says walk, just like the green, what you do? Go, but check, right? Just to make sure that somebody's not going to run you over. Okay, bottom of page 78 talks about lane signals. This one is a little bit awkward for people like us to understand because we live out here in the country land and we don't have these rotating lanes like they do in the city. But the best example I can give you is called the express lane in St. Louis. So in St. Louis, a lot of people go there in the morning because what are they doing? Going to work. And then at the end of the day, a lot of people are leaving St. Louis because they are leaving work, right? So what St. Louis developed is what's called the express lane. So there's a lane that goes open to St. Louis in the morning. And it's a middle lane in between the interstate. So if I'm not going to St. Louis to get off, Because I don't work in St. Louis, I'm just traveling through St. Louis. I could get in that express lane, and there should be less traffic. And it's taking me through St. Louis at a good pace. Does that make sense? And then, right around 10 o'clock, you'll probably get a yellow flash, which means it's about to change. Then you're going to get a red X, which means that lane's closed. So it's no longer open. And then right about 3 o'clock, what do you think happens? It opens up in the opposite direction now. So now it's saying you can use this lane when you're exiting St. Louis. Does that make sense? So it's a rotating lane. So I'm a little confused, or you kind of got it. Again, it's not something you see very often. So that's why it's something you probably don't quite understand. Okay, pavement markings on page 79. It says solid lines along the side of the road. Tell the driver where the pavement is located. White lines separate traffic moving in the same direction, right? So if I am in a lane and I look down and there's white dashes between me, what does that mean? Can I get in the other lane? Can I change lanes? Can I pass? Is that telling me all those things? Okay, what if I look down and I see a solid white line? Should I get in the other lane? Probably should not, right? Because solid means no change. What about if I see double solids? Really don't change, right? What if I look down and I see a yellow dashed line? What just happened now? Because white dashes were moving together. Yellow dashes, what does it mean? Now is it opposite traffic? Just like we have on most of the roads around here. Dashed yellow means what? You're allowed to pass. What if there is dashed and solids on the right side?
You can pass if you're on the dash side.
Yes. Dash side pass, solid side no. What about double solids? No pass. Pretty simple stuff, right? On 79, you see that picture where they're going around the curve? You see how it changes? And that's pretty normal, right? Because on the one side they're saying that car can't pass because they can't see, but once they get around the curve, then they can pass, but the other side flips, right? Same way on the next page, on a hill, right? As you approach a hill, you're going to get a no pass, get to the top of the hill, and it'll probably open up to passing. It's just the opposite for the other ones. Page 80 there has a two-way left turn lane like we talked about out here in front of school, where it shows the yellow lines, the X's, the turns, and all that kind of stuff. A white stop line is an indicator of where you should stop at intersections. They should be there, but at times, because of old budget crunch of Illinois, they're going to be pretty faded, or just haven't been painted at all in a while. Kind of varies. Railroad crossings we've kind of covered already, but the yellow is the advance warning. Only circle sign that's yellow. The crossbucks are typically located right at the tracks. If there are multiple tracks, it will tell you how many tracks there are. Like in the picture here on page 81, it's stating that there are 3 tracks. Did you see that? So what is important to understand if there's multiple tracks? If the stop arms come up, should I just immediately take off? Or should I do a double check to make sure there's no other trains coming? Theoretically, you're safe, but better safe than sorry. Check the multiple tracks. I think that's pretty good there. Now we move right on to back to the slides. Chapter 11 moves into some safe driving tips. Okay. How do I avoid aggressive driving? Aggressive driving, they say, is technically operation of a motor vehicle in a manner that endangers or is likely to endanger persons or property. Some possibilities are speeding, running lights, tailgating, passing poorly, slamming brakes, improper gestures, yelling, honking horns, flashing lights. Are those all things that are probably related to being late in some way? What I would tell you guys, Mr. Jacobs probably understands it a little bit, is when you're going to work, Mr. Jacobs, and you're on time, are you worried about any of this stuff? No. Because when you're on time, you're early, all these things go away. Because somebody could be going slow in front of me, but am I in a hurry? No, I'm good, right? But if I'm running late, do I want to pass that car and go faster so I can get to work on time? Yeah, it's going to create that. It's going to create the idea of doing tailgating, get on people. Like, all these things are created by the fact that you're probably running late. So if you can get in your head of whatever destination I'm going to, I get up and I get there earlier, this stuff goes away. Stress goes down. It's probably no different than when you wake up late for basketball practice, right? You start freaking out. You're like running around screaming at your parents probably, like it's their fault. Why didn't you wake me up? I knew you had practice 5 minutes ago. And then on the way to practice, you're probably yelling at the cars in front of you because they're going too slow. You're yelling at your mom or dad because they're driving too slow. And then you get to practice, and you have a bad practice, and then you have a bad rest of the day, right? All because of what? You were late. So if we can just get in this habit of being early, not on time, being early, a lot of this stuff goes away. Because do we have to, in a way, expect some slow stuff to happen on the road? So if I'm trying to make the Cardinal game, I got 7 o'clock tickets for the game, and I leave Carlisle at 6 o'clock, am I going to expect to get there on time? You should not. Because chances are, when you cross that bridge, are you going to hit traffic? Going to back up? Then you're going to have to find a parking spot, and all these things are going to happen. You're not going to make it to the game on time. Same thing happens. You leave at 5 o'clock. Can you take your good old time? Because, even if some of this stuff happens, you're still going to get there on time. So you got to prepare for these things. If I'm going to go through St. Louis during a rush hour or a ball game, I need to add time. Because it's going to create traffic, it's going to create stress, and if I'm a stressed out person by traffic, give myself more time so I can just relax. Because theoretically, I hate driving in St. Louis. I don't enjoy it. But do I have to go to St. Louis at times? Do I have to go to Cardinal games? Yeah, I don't have to, but I want to, right? Do I have to maybe go through there to go on a vacation? And if that means I have to go through St. Louis during a high traffic time, add more time so that I'm not stressed out about my timeline when I get through St. Louis. So that's important. Okay, how do we deal with aggressive drivers? So we're driving along, and there's somebody being really aggressive towards us. They're riding right on your butt. They're honking their horn at you. They're doing all sorts of things that are making you uncomfortable. What I would tell you right away is do not retaliate, because do we ever know what's going on in the mind of another person? They could be like right on the edge of snapping, like close, and it could be whatever we do puts them over the top. Does this happen? Like somebody's like just right at the edge of breaking, and all it takes is that one last thing to make them go over the top. And all of a sudden they're tailgating us, and we turn around and give them the one finger salute. And that puts them over the top. Are we in trouble now? Could it end very poorly? Do we see this stuff on the news? Yes. Right? Where somebody jumps out of their car and fights, shoots, does whatever, right? Terrible things happen because of road rage. So number one, don't retaliate, because you just don't know what's going on. Try to avoid eye contact, because if they're staring you down, all they want you to do is retaliate so that they can do what? Have more anger towards you, right? So it's just going to lead to a bad place. If it gets too heated, lock the doors, windows up, call 911. That's one time where you could get on your phone, right? And dial 911 and illegally drive on your phone and say, somebody is being very aggressive. I'm on my phone talking to you right now. This is where I'm at. Again, if you feel this situation is happening, give yourself an out. What that basically means is this, because I see it a lot from students. They'll pull up to a light, and they want to get really close to the car in front of them. What's wrong with that? If I get really close to the car in front of me, like this is a car in front of me, and I am right here. I am right on the bumper of that car in front of me. And now all of a sudden somebody behind me is being super aggressive. Am I stuck? Do I have anywhere to go? Compared to if I would stay back about a car width away in front of me, what can I do? Do I have the possibility to speed up and get out of there if I need to? I left myself an out. That's important to understand. So these are things that are real world and happen. My dad worked in like Belleville, East St. Louis area over there at one point in his career. And at times they would stop and tell him, okay, you got to be careful at this intersection because they know that stuff's been bad and happening. And what they do is they wait for people to do that mistake. So they'll leave a car parked at a four-way stop, let's say. And then they'll have a second car that's kind of watching this car. And then when somebody pulls up too close, they'll send in the second car and get right behind them, and then what can they easily do to you? Can they carjack you? Because you have nowhere to go? And that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for the person that gets too close to that car, then they'll ready in the second car and get robbed. So is this real world stuff that happens? Yes. So if you leave that habit of having that space there, they're not going to do it, because when somebody pulls up behind you and jumps out, you have the option to get out of there. So it's just stuff you have to think about. Then, like I said before, just don't underestimate people because of what we talked about. Mental health is an issue right now in the world. I don't have these problems, but somebody does. And all it takes is that one last thing to put somebody over the top, and you just don't want to underestimate them. Some triggers. Patience, obviously. My brother, terrible at this stuff. My brother is an EMT paramedic. So what does he do a lot during the day? Does he drive? So because he drives a lot, I mean, that's a truck driver the same way. They have a lot of triggers because they drive all day, and they see a lot of bad stuff. So, like, I'll be driving with my brother, and, like, somebody will do something, and he's, like, screaming through the window at the person. And I'm like, dude, the only person getting stressed now is me sitting next to you. Like, does that person in the other car hear him? So is there any point in doing that? Because you're only stressing out yourself or whoever's with you. So have some patience. Does everybody that does something wrong do it on purpose? Or could it truly be what's called an accident? Might have been an accident, right? They may not have done it on purpose. So don't get all angry right away. It says do not drive angry. If I am angry when I get in the car, what kind of driver am I going to be? Does that tend to be a passive driver or an aggressive driver? What do you think, Landon? An aggressive driver, right? Because if you're angry, do you feel a little bit more aggression?
Yeah.
Versus when you're kind of wake up and you're tired in the morning, do you feel a little bit lazy? I do, right? So if people get in the car and they're tired, how are they going to drive? A little slower, probably. I mean, you kind of take on the personality of what you are at that time. Allow time, like I talked about here, leave early. On time is late. You remember that? Our baseball rule is 15 minutes early is on time. On time is late. If you get there on time, we've already started. Avoid congestion, like I talked about. If you are somebody that gets stressed out by driving in congested areas, should I stay away from them? Based on my conversation so far with you guys, do I like driving in St. Louis? So do I try to avoid that congestion of driving in St. Louis if I can? Yeah. I will map out my plans to go through St. Louis during low traffic time. Listen to relaxing music. Basically, that's what's ever relaxing to you, right? Because whatever's relaxing to me might be annoying to you, right? So put on something on there that's relaxing to you. Should you listen to music that's real loud? What's the danger and the issue with loud music? Does it eliminate one of our protective devices, which is our sense of hearing? Is if the music's up real loud, can you hear somebody honk a horn at you? Because technically the horn is supposed to be a warning, right? Most of us in small-town USA know it as a what? Like a wave. But in the city, is it a wave? When somebody's honking at you in the city, basically they're yelling at you, right? So it's a little more prevalent there. Like I told you before, give drivers the benefit of the doubt. It may not have been something that they did on purpose. And all in all, avoid the conflict, right? Because it's not going to do you any good to get in some super aggressive, battle it out, yelling competition, because nothing gets solved. Okay, these two are super important to understand. Yeah, super important. So important you should probably wake up. So, highway hypnosis. What highway hypnosis is I'm driving somewhere all the time and I get bored. Does this happen? Have I done it? Yeah? So I drive every day from Highland to Carlisle. Every day, back and forth, and back and forth. It's a pretty boring drive. Does a lot change? Probably not much. So it's one of those deals where the more you do it, the more bored you get. So I'm driving along, and I'm leaving work. I turn left to go to Millersburg, kind of just putting along, and all of a sudden, I'm like, man, I'm in Piran, which means I went through Millersburg already. What happened, probably? I didn't even realize I went through a town. Did I fall asleep? No. But I was just so focused on staring straight ahead, I stopped paying attention to all the other stuff. Did I slow down? I did. I slowed down, I sped up. But was I looking for other things? So I turned into what's called highway hypnosis. When you're just driving and you're kind of in that robot mode. Have we all felt this before? Maybe like when Mr. Barr's talking and you're just kind of sitting there and you actually maybe stay awake and fall asleep. But then all of a sudden he asks you a question. What? Kind of like you did earlier. Like where it catches you off guard. That's kind of classroom hypnosis, right? Where you kind of lose it for a second. The same thing happens in the car. But the problem with that is if I'm doing highway hypnosis, am I doing defensive driving? There's no way, right? If I am in this stare straight ahead, locked in mode of what I'm doing right in front of me, I'm not being a good defensive driver, am I? What is defensive driving? Excuse me. What does that mean? Tell me what you guys think. Being alert. Being alert for what? What's that? Oncoming cars, other cars, right? Because highway hypnosis only worries about what? Me, right? Just probably worried about myself. But in general, do I want to start paying attention to all the other stuff that's going on out there? Like as I'm driving, am I supposed to be looking for deer on the side of the road? What cars are doing behind me? What cars are doing in front of me? What's the next light? Is there a stop coming up? What's the speed limit? If I'm paying attention to all that stuff, I'm moving my head around, I'm looking at my side mirrors, am I being defensive? Because am I looking for the next big problem? Because usually the next big problem is not me, is it? I mean, it could be. But a lot of times the issues are out there. Am I pretty good at defensive driving? What do you guys think? Why do you think I've gotten pretty good at defensive driving? What do I do for a profession? Drive who? You guys. Is that scary enough in itself? So if you're in a car with a new driver, are you pretty alert to what's going on? Because am I scared about what the person next to me is doing? Probably so. So I'm scared not only about what we're doing here, I'm also scared about all this. So am I looking for problems everywhere so we don't get into an issue? So if you start to do this, and you get good enough at it, you'll see the accidents before they happen. And it's happened a couple times where I've been driving along with my wife and she hates me because I can't turn off my driver's ed mindset. So there's times where she'll drive and I'll be sitting in the shotgun position there and she'll hear me going like this. What am I doing? I'm trying to turn the brake on. But in my regular car, do I have a brake? No, but she's like, stop that. But then I'll be like, watch out for that car up there. And she'll, again, tell me to shut up. But what am I doing? My mind is still thinking like a driver's ed teacher. I'm still worried about all these things. And then there's times where I'll tell my wife, well, watch out for this. And one time it was really bad. You could see it playing out. There was like 3 lanes. One car stopped to let a car turn in front of them, you know what I mean? But then there was a second lane. So what's going to happen? So this car stops, kind of waves this car on. The guy's like all happy, waves at him, turns, wham. Because yes, the one car stopped and waved him on, but wasn't there a second lane that he had to worry about? And it's like he just went mind blank and just kind of just went. And I told my wife, I was like, oh, and it was like, whoosh. But is that something that's important to see? Because if I'm the next car in line and I get too close to it, now am I sucked into that same wreck? But we were like seeing it happen and we had slowed down, so it was not an issue for us. So that was important for us to understand. Is this 24 or 30? I wasn't 30? Sweet. We'll cover one more and call it good. Because this, again, is another really important one. Okay, 3-second rule is what? The 5-second rule, you guys know, right? 2 on ground. What they say, it's up to like 10 seconds now. Inflation. So what's the 3-second rule? What are we talking about? Anybody? Landon.
Where you are from another car.
How far you? Landon's the star student. Everybody else is sleeping. So how far away? How do we know how to do this stuff? We just guess somewhat.
You choose an object and then you count. It's like 1,000 and up to 3,000. You go to see
How do you know all this stuff? You read ahead. So he's correct. So what you do is you have to choose a stationary object, okay? So I'm driving along and there's a car in front of me that passes my chair. Okay, you see how my chair is not moving? So that car passes that chair and I'm moving. I start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How far behind am I? 5 seconds. Does that make sense? So 3 seconds, they would say, is probably minimum distance. So you guys being new drivers, would I tell you guys to do 3 seconds, or would I say 5 seconds is probably better? Probably 5 seconds, right? Give yourself a little extra time to react. Do people drive inside that 3-second rule at times? Is it dangerous? Because if I'm inside the 3-second rule at a high rate speed and the car in front of me stops suddenly, am I going to make it? Probably no way. Because by the time I think about applying the brakes, apply the brakes, and all the other factors have to play out for me to stop, I've hit them already. What about bad weather? More or less? More. We talked about, what about if I'm following a motorcycle? More. Nighttime. More. So 3-second rule is probably the minimum rule for the best driver under the best conditions. So does that exist for any of you guys currently? No. I would say you're better off going 5 seconds plus. One thing that could happen, it will happen, is let's say I'm driving in St. Louis again, and I'm following the 3-second rule, which means I'm giving a gap in front of me. And And in St. Louis, is there a lot of traffic? So I leave a gap in front of me, what happens? If I leave space in front of me, what do you think is going to happen? Somebody's going to take that space, right? So then somebody takes that space that I left in front of me. Now what do I have to decide in my head? Am I going to be a bad driver and leave no space in front of me? Or am I going to gap it out again? But what's going to happen if I gap it out again? Somebody's going to take that spot. Then what do I have to decide again? Am I going to be a bad driver? Or am I going to gap it out? And what eventually happens to us? Do we wear ourselves down? And what do we become? We become a bad driver, and now we're driving too close to the car in front of us, and are we setting ourselves up for failure now? You've ever seen these accidents in St. Louis where it's like a 20-car pileup? Why do those happen? Why do dominoes fall down? Because they're too close to each other. When one falls, they all fall, right? So if you see these really bad accidents, it's because people weren't following the 3-second rule. And too many people fell prey to the idea of leaving the gap and cars cutting in front of them. Does it happen to me? Yeah. Because I'll leave a gap, and after the 5th or 6th car pulls in front of you and takes that gap away, do you get frustrated and make a bad decision? And luckily it's never burned me yet, but could it someday? Yeah, because of the domino effect that could happen. Because one accident becomes big pile. That's probably where we'll stop today. What we'll do tomorrow is we are going to finish up maybe chapter 11, because chapter 11 is a pretty long one here. Once we finish chapter 11, then we'll have, I think, one more of those online assignments that we've done, which gets us through all of our points for the Rules of the Road book. Then we only have a couple slides left before we're pretty much done already with the Rules of the Road, which I told you, 3 weeks. Which means beginning of the 4th week of the class, we'll be taking the permit test, okay? We'll do a little bit of a review